is just some separate documentation of the invasion of privacy that is ongoing, not only outside of the bathroom, but on the inside. And what I'm showing through this specific piece of documentation is January 8th, 2020, it's 8:55 a.m. And that sound after the toilet finishes cycling through is coming through the wall. And they use that as a method of nonverbal communication. And based on the state's ongoing invasion of privacy, the third parties that listen to me document their criminal conduct. They engage in trying to be consistent. And so each and every time that I enter the restroom and I flush the toilet, you hear that sound coming from behind the wall, which is supposed to be something that you would assume is like pipes or something coming through the wall. The only thing is that it is inconsistent. Not only did this sound not exist prior to my openly making them aware of the fact that I noticed it, such that they continue to do it every time I'm in the bathroom, but it is also used at other times when I am not flushing the toilet. It is a means of nonverbal communication, and this is additional proof of the invasion of privacy inside of the restroom. In addition to that, there's tapping that occurs behind this wall, and it is also occurring at inconsistent rates. It is used as a means of, I would say legally analyzing it, it is used as a means of harassment to inform the targeted individual that they are listening to them inside of the restroom, because it is identical behavior that is experienced and documented inside of the vehicle that are remaining at FERN and G, the incessant tapping on the outside of the car, which is nothing that the car is doing. It's a machine that is off, it's stationary, so they are creating this noise on the outside of the car. It is a form of harassment and as a form of nonverbal communication. So inside of this restroom, they are engaged in the same tapping behind the wall, which what could that possibly be? And also, in addition to that, it did not obviously pre-exist. There's nothing that's going to be creating some incessant tapping behind the wall. So I'm just documenting, these are the ridiculous and criminal and incessant, relentless efforts on the part of third parties, on the part of the state. Again, what I documented yesterday, what I continue to document, it doesn't change. This is another day of documenting the same. All I am doing is connecting the dots. Again, with regard to the system that is in place, and all facets that I have identified in the system, all the elements that remain present, invasion of privacy inside of the restroom is very crucial to that. My point is to show it does not stop outside of the doors or walls or ceiling of a bathroom. It continues at all times, like I said, and at all places. And again, walls, doors, and ceilings are merely superficial barriers. Third parties are outside at every corner because the targeted individual remains surrounded at all times. They are listening to every move, every word, every action. This speaks to the nonverbal communication that I listen to the third-party employees engage in while I am inside of the restroom. The use of the sounding behind the wall with the toilet as opposed to when I'm digging in my bag, and that same sound of the banging behind the wall occurs. So these are the inconsistent ways, and this is what I want to document. It's 8:58 a.m. on January 8th, and this is just to specify and make sure I specifically demarcate another element that is present at this facilitating venue of Starbucks, located at 706 West HOLT in Ontario, California. And again, all the elements remain present at all times, but and being consistent and logically showing how my system the system that I have outlined, the elements that I have outlined, remain present and consistently exist at all times. And this is what these third parties are engaged in. And their conduct, their outwardly act, is a part of that same system. It is the malicious design. And so as a targeted individual who is aware, what I am showing is that inside of a restroom, as is the case at every other place, the targeted individual is subject to an expansive, unimaginable, unfathomable level of invasion of privacy. Those same airplanes and law enforcement that are stalking outside are listening right now. They are stalking and remaining within the proximity. They are flying around this building. They are listening to and monitoring through the concerted action of third parties who are engaged in such criminal conduct, deliberately, intentionally, and knowingly, in concert with that government. And so this is the importance of what I'm documenting inside of the bathroom at Starbucks, which is merely, again, a template of what is occurring at every single place. This is the same thing that's occurring inside of the car. They are aware of what I'm doing inside the car. They are aware that I'm inside of the car, hence the vehicle being targeted, because they are aware, irrespective of blankets covering the windows, right? And the unnatural, improbable light activity directed inside of that car is the very evidence of third-party knowledge of invasion of privacy, of the ongoing targeting, harassment, stalking, and monitoring. So it's January 8th, it's 9 a.m., and this is a facilitating venue, Starbucks, where I did walk to, and again, the same stalking conduct documented in RAL on the part of third parties and the state directly. Okay, this is why I engage in documentation in many forms. This third party entering the restroom again while I'm, right when I start verbally narrating is not a coincidence. It's relevant to what I'm about to say out loud. This is why I maintain documentation in many forms. They are listening to me inside of the restroom, these perverted, psychotic, weirdo psychos who are listening to me breathe, they're listening to me blink, they're listening to me stare at anything, they are listening to me in the bathroom. This is why Starbucks will be at the forefront of my lawsuit against the state of California as the template for the criminal conduct that the people of California are engaged in concert with this government that is stalking and invading privacy, monitoring, and harassing. In addition to that, what is occurring inside of the bathroom was me obviously holding on a phone and engaging in that which I know that they are aware of, which is recording the tapping, which is behind the mirror on the wall next to the sink. Upon my holding my phone out, the consistent tapping immediately stopped once I held my phone out. And this is based upon giving them awareness, overt awareness, that I'm documenting them. I've been documenting the conduct. This is relevant. This is proof of the ongoing invasion of privacy, their knowledge of that which I am documenting on behalf of, pursuant to the entire system, pursuant to my experience inside of a facilitating venue like Starbucks. And I will go into separate documentation about the experience as a targeted individual who was aware of the fact that when they're inside of the restroom, everything that is occurring inside of the restroom is a matter of public information, as literally everyone is engaged in listening jointly, which is the experience of the targeted individual. But aside from that, what I want to show is the conduct that is engaged in, and it is entirely consistent with that which I documented inside of the vehicle. It is the most asinine, patently ridiculous things that they engage in for which there is no argument when it is presented in court. And this is what is so perplexing about this entity that I continue to document. What it shows is there's just a grave depravity, right? A certain baseless level of desperation and relentless despicable wickedness and serious mental issues to engage in such conduct. But on the other hand, that which for which there will be no, everything that they are engaged in is directly provable, first of all. You're talking about the light activity, that's directly provable. You're talking about the consistency with which the tapping on behind the walls, which I will take a picture of where the noise was coming from. And the other thing that I want to focus on is that not only did they engage in this prior to today, I've documented it, but right now, when I held on my phone, the tapping stopped. And again, as I speak, the tapping is not occurring. While I stood in front of it, engaged in documenting it occurring, while they were listening to me write about it. Everything that they do is under the assumption that they are not already being documented. This is definitely an entity that has not been approached with its own criminal conduct before. This is readily apparent to me, and based on the just illogical, just simply foolish conduct that they engage in, and I would surmise, if I were that level of a criminal or a fool, to think that it's some attempt to be consistent, but maintaining consistency with regard to criminal conduct is not helpful. It is not in any way providing any defense, and secondly, there is not many ways for them to maintain consistency with stopping and starting that which I am openly documenting. So it speaks directly to the invasion of privacy that I've already stated is the case. And again, that is what happened. The noise happened behind the, like I have my direct documentation of, and then once I held up my phone, the noise immediately stopped. And so again, with regard to the pattern that exists, they're listening to me document now. And once I stop vocally speaking, then they engage in that. And this is all that I have documented. This is why it is purely fascinating what the state has been engaged in. That sound right there, that's the same sound that they initiate after I flush the toilet, right? But I did not flush the toilet right now. And the third party that's engaged in the bathroom next, I surmise that that's supposed to be the toilet from, I'm not even going to make, because all of that is also readily provable. Whether in fact there is a booming sound through the walls when you flush the toilet at 706 West Holt Boulevard. This is the most asinine, it's just, I keep using the word asinine because that's the best depiction, but this is criminal and it's serious. And I am seeking to expose what a targeted individual goes through, what the state of California is doing to American citizens who otherwise have no clue about what's going on and probably have no idea how to confront it. And so I seek to point out not only the elements but the inconsistency, the idiocy that is involved in what they are engaged in. It's in no way sophisticated whatsoever. They sit in the parking lot as I speak on their communication devices. This is a matter of federal stalking as well. They are using means of interstate commerce in order to engage in these crimes. They are acting in concert with the government, who is irrefutably engaged in stalking and harassment. A government that is engaged in stalking American citizens via aircraft is certainly capable and moreover willing to engage in invading of privacy, and that's not going to stop inside of a facilitating venue where you have, where I have spelled out identical behavioral patterns on the part of third parties who are acting in concert with this government, and that is established not on my words, it's established based on the evidence, based on the consistency that I have been documenting for over a year and a half now. So the case against Starbucks, the case against the state of California is already established. What I am showing is that there is no argument in it. It is perplexing how the state continues to engage in this conduct, whereas I guess the only argument you can say is that they don't expect that it will reach a court of law. They don't expect that it will be exposed, but that is not going to be the case. Like I said, you can call me clairvoyant on that tip, because this will go into court, and there is no argument, and there is no means by which that third parties like Starbucks, they are facilitating venue, they are third parties nonetheless, and the third parties that have been engaged in consistent identical behavior, strangers, this speaks to the existence of a system that is not going to be individualized. It's based on the behavioral patterns amongst a people. That's what is the question here. And so still, what I have, this on my phone is in direct conflict with what I just been documenting inside of this bathroom. This is direct proof of the invasion of privacy, like I have already been stating. This is direct proof of their listening to me document their criminal conduct. This is directly relevant to the characterization of their conduct as they listen to me document, knowing that I am aware of it, continuing to engage in it, the state and third parties alike. It's January 8th, 2020, and I'm inside of the bathroom, and this is with regard to the targeted individual being subject to invasion of privacy. I mean, for no reason whatsoever. They're accomplishing nonverbal by the artificially engineered booming sound that occurs after you flush the toilet, but it also occurs at other moments too, namely when I'm engaged in movement or digging in my bag or using my camera, or when I make a statement, like when I said I was already documenting it and then the booming occurred, stuff like that, because they're actively listening, and those are called real-time reactions. So anyway, I am at 706 with HOLT, and I just continue to be flabbergasted by the anonymity that I am surrounded by, but they are engaged in high crime, and it is that which makes me exceedingly anxious to expose this, what Starbucks name brands, you know, like grocery stores and Omnitrans, this is a system that these entities these corporations, these companies, these brand names, if you will, are deliberately engaged in, and that is established based on the identical patterns as they exist. Okay, the images that I took at 9:09 a.m. of the wall on the west side of the Starbucks, I took an image of that because it is significant based on the time of day. It's 9:13 a.m. and it is supposed to take on the appearance of, again, we've got the moving walls of light on this side, and you have stationary vehicles in the drive-through that are also engaged in relevant positioning as I'm engaged in activity on my communication device, by the way. The abnormal light conduct activity on this wall is not a result of the traffic that is on San Antonio, first of all. Also, based on the location of the sun, it's not going to result in a reflection inside of this building, especially at that location. This is another example of unnatural, improbable, implausible light activity, and it speaks to the image that I took of the third parties that are surrounding inside of this facilitating venue. It also speaks to the use of nonverbal communication that the third party's employees engage in. The third party that I took an image of, who was sitting below that picture where the light movement was, again, it was right adjacent to where I was standing in front of the register, waiting in line, which is deliberate. This is a search that's occurring. They exploit the factual circumstances at play. So with regard to conducting a search, having a whole bunch of third parties stand in line where you wait, they engage in the light conduct that is evident of the ongoing search that I am exposing. Based on the location of the sun, based on the movement of traffic, San Antonio, the traffic, the sun, exactly, if you, looking at the drive-thru right now, this is a prime example, the sun is hitting on the opposite side of the car. That is not going to result in light reflecting on the inside. So again, this is additional evidence of the abnormal light conduct, which is evidence of the search that is occurring inside of what is a facilitating venue inside of Starbucks. This is evident of the third-party conduct, irrespective of the way that they conduct themselves outwardly. The targeted individual, which I am, and I am aware of it, is always surrounded by third parties who engage in relevant positioning in concert with that light activity. This is for the capture of electronic information. And what I was speaking to, the female that's sitting underneath the portrait, where that light is moving in an abnormal location, which is not occurrence of the sun or moving traffic or the vehicles inside of the drive-thru, none of that. She's in relevant positioning with regard to the location in the bathroom. So again, not that she has to sit in front of the wall, because they have engaged in lining it at the register. That's relevant positioning. Sitting in their cars outside of the restroom outside of the building is relevant positioning. Sitting on the outside, so with regard to the walls and the ceilings and the doors, again, these are superficial barriers. So what I'm documenting right now, again, is an unnatural light activity, which is, again, evident of the same system that I continue to document inside of this facilitating venue, which, again, is merely a sample. It's representative, as is every other third party that is acting in concert with this government, that I have clear and direct evidence of, irrefutable evidence of stalking, harassment, and monitoring. And these third parties who are engaged in identical behavioral conduct, who engage in these elements that exist, which gives added proof to the very system that I'm documenting. So it's 9:16 a.m., and that is upon exiting the bathroom, standing outside behind the register, waiting to get hot water, while the unnatural light activity is occurring within very close proximity to me, where they can get it basically on the wall right behind me.
you have a third party sitting there on a communication device, that's a search. Everybody standing in line at the register with their communication devices, that's a search. All the third party employees with their phones on their person, that's a search. Every third party engaged in relevant positioning inside of this establishment, because it's a relatively small establishment, this is a search. And that's just on the inside. The drive-through, again, they're surrounding the building. Those are communication devices. That is a search. So what I am showing is the feasibility and the seamless manner in which they are engaging in concert with this government for the unlawful search and theft of personal electronic information, which is the main component in the state-organized system of stalking and harassment. And again, as I'm speaking, I just want to narrate what's occurring. There is the same disco light effective light inside of this establishment. The movement of light on the walls, where it's located, its movement, it is not commensurate with the location of the sun. It is not commensurate with any reflection off of any vehicle. This is with regard to the ongoing search that is occurring at a systematic, ceaseless rate inside of this establishment. And so this is as I am standing here in operation of my communication device, as they listen to me document. And it's not because I'm yelling, it's because they are closely listening to the target individual at all times. Hence my movement on a communication devices and the dragging of furniture, the slamming of items. That's nonverbal communication. They use clamor, they use whatever means to nonverbally communicate the targeted individual's activity, movement, and the change thereof. In addition to their flashing communication devices, another indicator of the ongoing monitoring. And so what I'm saying is that the facts are clear with regard to what is occurring, the unnatural light movement, the third-party roles in with regard to that search, and all of this is that which would be clearly and readily provable in a court of law, where the sun actually is located, what reflection is actually going to occur based on location. So none of this is to remain a mystery. I am merely documenting what is occurring as it's occurring. None of this is something that is left to the imagination. What I want to show is the ways in which they engage in this criminal conduct. And Starbucks is representative of facilitating venues that are knowingly, intentionally, deliberately creating a venue whereby third parties come and intentionally engage in conduct in concert with the state that they know is engaged in. They see the same airplanes, they see the same law enforcement setup and firefighters and all that setting up. They are driving by, engaging in relevant positioning. This is deliberate conduct. This is concerted conduct. Hence my term of third parties. They are agents and servants of that state. So it is 9:18 a.m. And it is January 8th, 2020, and this is the P.O.C. on another day, same scenario. This is the P.O.C. With regard to light conduct, with regard to relevant positioning, with regard to invasion of privacy, as I documented inside of the restroom, and that is occurring at a ceaseless rate. It's not ever stopping. I am just making sure I am systematically documenting it. It will be relevant for facilitating venues liability. It will be relevant for the state of California's liability with regard to servitude to the state and third parties in general. Okay, so January 8th, 2020. So with regard to my documentation, the third parties, the unnatural light conduct, the third party relevant positioning, this is a systematic occurrence inside of a facilitating venue like Starbucks, where I continue to document the P.O.C. What I want to also specifically go out of my way to note, as is always the case, but just being consistent in my documentary efforts, is the fact that, again, en route to this facilitating venue, I documented the airplanes that engaged in the same following and stalking. So these are all facts that are connected, and again, the light conduct, that's readily provable. That is proof of the very system, the ways in which light is being aimed. It is implausible, it is unnatural, highly improbable, and implausible. It's ridiculous, and it shows the desperate efforts to seek out this electronic information. And so, again, that's very relevant to what I'm documenting with regard to third parties. And it is 9:23 a.m., and so my concentration with regard to third parties, again, is the requirement that you focus on the elements that I have outlined, because the malicious design of the system is to engage in conduct such as stalking via aircraft. That is designed to, again, detect the targeted individual who becomes aware in one way or another as someone suffering from some sort of mental capacity by virtue of airplanes following. But that is an irreducible, irrefutable fact in this case, That is inextricably linked to the very third-party conduct that I'm documenting inside of facilitating venues such as Starbucks. Secondly, third parties intentionally and deliberately and necessarily engage in conducting themselves in a manner as though they are not paying attention, that they are unaware, unconcerned with the target individual, where in reality they are closely engaged in targeting that individual. And that is based on the invasion of privacy, the nonverbal communication that requires very close monitoring, listening to the movements on a very communication device. That requires inherently very close listening and concentrating on the targeted individual. This is a system that does violence to the targeted individual, and knowingly, intentionally act in concert with that government that is engaged in stalking, which is again a fact that has already been established by my documentation. So these are not mere coincidences. This is not happenstance. What I am showing is the connected system, the part that third parties play, the facilitating venue, the part that it plays, in knowingly and deliberately creating a venue where third parties come and engage in criminal conduct, because this is tortious and criminal, stalking, harassment, and monitoring, which is an unlawful search of communication information that the target individual ordinarily has no idea is occurring. And they systematically engage in the light tactics, which are evidenced by the unnatural methods that they engage in, and the systematic positioning, which is very easy inside of a facility establishment such as Starbucks. They just engage in getting up, walking around, walking whichever way in order to engage in basically crossing paths, standing wherever they want to. What I am showing, though, is what is actually occurring behind the guise of everyday life. So it is immaterial the way that they conduct themselves, because that is a part of the very design. And so that's the only final point that I want to make, is that this is inextricably linked to the ongoing stalking that I documented en route to the facilitating venue this morning. It's 9:27 a.m. It's 9:55 a.m. That image that I just took of the third party in the vehicle engaged in relevant positioning, notably, and the enhanced light tactic that was exercised. You can see by the image not only the placement of the sun and where the sun is not going to be aiming through this window based on its position and where the vehicles are adjacent to the building, but what I want to show, the reason why I captured that third party inside of their vehicle is because they are engaged in P.O.C. And again, this is just one that is emblematic, representative of what is occurring at a systematic rate in different manners. Same elements remain present, identical behavioral patterns. So as this vehicle drives forward through the drive-through, light somehow travels backwards onto my person. That is how ridiculous they are engaging in this P.O.C. They engage in directing sunlight. I have thoroughly documented the use of light inside of here and all of the ways in which it has manifested itself. And so one of the things that that they engage in is directing light in order to, under the guise of, oh, it's sunny outside, that's a reflection of light, and it is not. So all that you have to do is dissect the facts and the factual circumstances and understand what nature is going to create and what nature is going to allow. So anyway, I captured that third party in that vehicle because upon their slowly driving forward, so that would be driving north in the drive-through, where the sun is at 9:54 a.m., still on the east side, and so somehow the light traveled, and you're talking about a small section of light. How would you describe that? Like not a line of light. It was like a small little beam of light moved backwards in order to touch my person. And I am seated at the south side of this cafe along the wall. So anyway, this speaks to, again, the third-party conduct, the very conduct that I continue to document. It is, again, proof of the same system that is in operation. This is why third-party conduct is irrelevant. That is a part of the malicious design of the system. The proof of their participation, the proof of this facilitating venue's participation, the proof of the very system, not only by virtue of the state's conduct of irrefutably engaging in stalking and harassment and monitoring, but also through the implausible conduct that they engage in by virtue of the impossible light actions. It's patently ridiculous, the efforts that they engage in, but they do so because they are engaged in that which I have documented, which I have made into a system of elements, and that is the main component of the state-organized system of stalking, harassment, and monitoring, which is seeking out and seeking to steal electronic information. And so this is why, as I engage in activity, as I engage in documentation, it goes crazy in here with regards to the light activity. And it goes with regard to especially inside of Starbucks, I have specifically identified this facilitating venue as one where it has a quote disco light effect in here, and I have documented that in addition to the various other implausible light conduct. And so with regard to the third parties, the other way in which it is proven, again, is by the identical behavioral patterns. And so these are the universal facts that establish the P.O.C. that I continue to document inside of Starbucks, which is a facilitating venue. And that is the significance of the image that I took of the third party that is in the drive-thru. And again, that is relevant positioning. And so you have a universal search that is going on at all places, at all times, where the targeted individual is the focus. And that is of the government, that is stalking by aircraft, by law enforcement that remains in proximity of the physical location of the targeted individual, and the third parties that constantly surround by engaging in relevant positioning. And the use of light is instrumental in the ongoing search for electronic information. And that is a system at large. What I'm showing is the ways in which it is proven, it stands out by virtue of these facts that I continue to point out. So anyway, it is now 10 a.m. and I am inside of Starbucks Stokes, January 8, 2020. And so it's 10:21 a.m. and what I'm documenting, what I'm observing are while I am in operation of my laptop, and again, being subject to close monitoring, they are listening to me and aware of when I turn on or turn off a communication device. So what you have is a third-party employee that comes out onto the floor in order to get closer, engaging, crossing in paths, basically is what they're doing. And she's sweeping the floor. She is dragging furniture in concert with my activity, with my movement, like swiping the trackpad, that's switching a screen. This is how close they are monitoring, and I've documented this before. This is similar to what I have termed as a soundtrack. The same sort of soundtrack occurs as I'm walking down a street. Third parties engage in making nonverbal communication, marking that I'm passing by. It's as everywhere that I go, there is a sound that accompanies that movement, that activity. As I sit inside of Starbucks, what they are doing is they are creating a whole bunch of clamor while I am engaged in activity on this laptop. And it started so when I turned it on, which they are aware of because they are monitoring my electronic devices, in addition to the airplanes that are flying over this building. So what I want to specifically speak of is, again, the significance, because I have stressed the light conduct, the light activity, what the purpose that it serves. What they are engaged in is nonverbal communication, and that is incidental to the monitoring that they are engaged in. And I want to show that in addition to that, what you have is the walls of light that are moving inside, and I've already demonstrated based on the position of the sun, the improbable movement and activity of that light, and this is a consistent feature at every place that I go, actually, including inside of the vehicle. You have the unnatural, improbable activity of light directed inside of the car, where the windows are covered up. Inside of here, you have beams and walls of light creating a disco-like effect. You have the position of light in areas where it would otherwise not be. This is the proof of the very search that is occurring. This is also speaking to and is directly connected to the soundtrack that third-party employees are creating in concert with my activity on my communication devices. Third-party employees, like the Starbucks employee just did, as I was engaged in activity on my laptop, she comes in closer proximity, engaging in crossing paths and doing so. Again, whatever the outward exterior, the outward conduct is irrelevant to the P.O.C. that they are engaged in, and all of the surrounding facts establish that. The fact that they conduct themselves as one way or another is nothing more than a veneer, and it has to be assessing the totality of circumstances. What I have established is that third parties are engaged in concerted action, and it is proven by virtue of the identical behavioral patterns. So this third-party employee engages in crossing paths, in addition to the third parties that are engaged in positioning inside of this cafe and engaged in crossing path in the drive-thru. While that is occurring, you have the walls of light that are moving inside of this venue. It is not based on any movement of a car in a parking lot or any driving of a car on the streets outside of this building on San Antonio or HOLT. It is not based on the position of the sun. This is the same unnatural light movement, and it is occurring as I engage in narrating to the very moment, right now. It's 10:25 a.m., and so I am narrating in real time beams of light, walls of light that are moving, and actually in all areas of the cafe. I saw it on the right side and on the left side, on the ceilings, and on the walls. And again, not only is it inconsistent, it is unnatural, it is improbable, it's implausible, based on again, the natural position of the sun, where it is going to be hitting off of vehicles, which could only be that's the only plausible argument that you can state. But again, these are facts that I am merely pointing out. It's a matter of common sense, and it is readily provable. With regard to my case, this is how it is established what third parties are engaged in, and that light activity is proof of that. And in addition, it is the element in the ongoing search that I am stating that third parties are actively engaged in concert with the government. The nonverbal communication, the use of clamor. So that is relevant to what I'm documenting right now. And so in my case against the state of California, when I will be facilitating venues like Starbucks, that takes a preeminent role in my case against the state, because it is a template for the criminal conduct that the people of the state of California are knowingly and intentionally engaged in concert with this government that is stalking and harassing me. And I'm showing how it is engaged in the factual circumstances that are exploited in each place. And that is the role that Starbucks takes. The third parties that are literally engaged in planting themselves inside and around this building under the guise of purchasing coffee, drinks, irrespective. What I am showing is that it is irrelevant. As this is a matter of public corruption, what you have is the elements that remain present, and it is proof of that very system. And so as each movement, as each activity I engage in, what I do is I document the third-party conduct, and it is consistent. And so this is how I've been able to identify the elements that remain present. And the universal one that, again, third parties in Starbucks cannot escape from, that cannot separate itself from, is the airplane conduct, the airplane activity, which surround this building, which act in concert with my movement coming outside of this building, coming to this building, the use of clamor, the nonverbal communication, which is a consistent element not only in this venue, but at other side venues. So it connects the very things that I'm documenting inside here with what occurs at every other place that I'm at. So this speaks to the existence of the system. And again, with regard to the state, law enforcement, and aircraft that began stalking, it initially began based on my knowledge that third-party strangers, absolute strangers, were engaged in stalking with communication devices. Before I created elements, before I created a whole system, before I had identified all of the aspects of the system in place, that is where the state engaged in blatant, raw, irrefutable stalking and harassment via aircraft. And that is also upon my seeking to get help in that situation. Law enforcement took on a more prominent position, appearing at every place that I was at. So that is the state acting directly. This is third-party conduct acting on behalf of that state. And the state started engaging in that conduct, again, based on my knowledge of what complete strangers were engaged in, because that is threatening on behalf of the state for me to have that knowledge. And so that is why they engage in such outlandish, extreme conduct in order to make that targeted individual making such claims illegitimate. Make those claims illegitimate. That is the claim. And this is also speaking to the third parties who engage in their conducting themselves as though they are not paying attention, they are unaware, they're not concerned with that at any rate with regards to the target individual, and their conduct directly speaks opposite to that. And what I have shown is the consistency of facts that establish it. And that is why the way that they conduct themselves outwardly is totally irrelevant to the existence of the system. What third-party employees are engaged in here at this facilitating venue of Starbucks is consistently engaging in monitoring. And they do that by creating clamor and noise that is in concert with my activity on my communication devices as I reach into my purse, as I focus on a certain object. And this is a consistent element that occurs at other places where I have documented the same conduct. Even when I'm walking outside, I have documented the same sort of what I have termed quote-unquote soundtrack that follows my conduct when I'm in movement. This same sort of soundtrack is occurring as I am sitting inside of here while walls of light are moving in improbable and unnatural manners. This is the very proof of what is occurring. And so when this reaches in a court of law, there will be no argument. It is also readily provable what is actually occurring, and Starbucks has no room for defense as far as what they are actually engaged in, because what I am showing is that beyond the face that this system takes, I have reached beyond that veneer because that is what is required in order to see, and it is based on the elements. Based on the evidence itself is how this is proven. The malice of the system, the inextricable link to the state that's engaged in stalking, and they're continuing engaged in an invasion of privacy. They're monitoring that they are doing in concert with that government. They are directly responsible, and the name itself is going to be linked with what I am documenting. As I document this conduct, they are damned by virtue of the state's conduct of stalking me because they are linked to that. They are damned by the identical behavioral patterns of the third-party patrons who are inside right now listening to me document, engaged in monitoring. They're engaged in listening to every word and watching me. They are damned by virtue of their participation of the close monitoring that they are engaged in by virtue of the nonverbal communication. They consistently engage in making clamor and noise that is consistently in concert with my activity. This is not a coincidence. And this is not anything that is just separate, unilaterally separate from every other element that is present. Okay, so it is, what I'm showing is that these are all the facts and these are all the elements that are tethered together. And the fact that you have light, again, that is being directed, you have vehicles surrounding this drive-through, surrounding this building. This is how desperate that they are to continue to engage in the criminal conduct. This is directly attributable to Starbucks, which I will be documenting and presenting in court. They are engaged in the search as I speak, surrounding this building, while light is moving inside of the building, walls of light, as I have documented as they occur. And again, that use of noise in the background, that's added proof of the very thing. They are listening to me and creating clamor because they don't like to hear me documenting them. They are hostile to it. They have also, another example of that hostility was demonstrated by the use of the flashing communication devices. The more that I documented it, the more that they were engaging in flashing me with their communication devices. This is just the same behavior. This is something that is being proven by the unnatural light. Again, I want to stress that. While I am engaged in narrating in real time criminal conduct inside of Starbucks, the unnatural... So it's 10:42 a.m. and again, as I engage in activity on my communication devices, third parties sitting directly in front of me, and they're sparking communication devices, P.O.C. So anyway, and in addition, you have the walls of light that are moving. It is a disco light effect in here. What I took images of are the closed down business that's adjacent to Starbucks and how it is filled with vehicles. This is where I have also documented light activity over there, lights coming on and off as I'm seated outside or as I'm walking past, nonverbal communication by people that are inside. Even the dumpster trucks, as I've documented, got inside of the closed down business, and there's not going to be any garbage accumulated when it's a closed down business that has never been open, serving any food or anything. But yet, when I am inside of here on numerous occasions, particularly when they know that I have taken pictures of it, then they have filled it up with cars. They take on the appearance of doing construction work. Whatever appearance I'm dealing with an entity that's listening to me document it. I'm dealing with third parties that are interested in covering their asses, if you will. Excuse my French, but this is the truth. And so they immediately go into whatever mode to take on whatever appearance under the guise of whatever is necessary. And in order to do so. So what I am doing while I'm inside of documenting P.O.C. inside of Starbucks, and again, every time I do so, it goes haywire in here. It is rapid light movement, again, as I've already documented, a disco light effect at every angle, every wall, every ceiling. So that in and of itself speaks to the fact that it is not based on any reflection of light. You have directed light moving all inside of this, building. You have based on unnatural, it's not based on the natural position of the sun, in other words. So the state, as I have documented, engages in directing light. The sun is in a natural position regardless. It is not God. This entity cannot be God. However, they engage in directing light in certain directions, moving light inside of this establishment. But like I said, based on nature, and this is readily going to be provable in court at the time of day, at the time of year, based on this location, based on traveling, substantially similar conduct, driving on the street, being in the drive-thru, driving through the parking lot, and what actually exists inside in the walls and the ceilings on the floors inside of this establishment. So anyway, what I'm documenting next door to Starbucks, again, I took images of a bunch of vehicles that are next door inside of this closed down business, where they're all parked inside of the parking lot and appearing under the guise of whatever I have noticed before, documented before, where there are abandoned buildings, and after it's been established, for example, it's an area that I walk past often. All of a sudden, it's not closed down anymore. It's opened up so that somebody can occupy it, so that I can constantly be monitored everywhere that I go. I have documented that before. Specifically, it was when I was walking to Ontario Library, and there were closed down businesses, but all of a sudden they were not closed down anymore, and they were occupied. And what I am showing is that that is not a coincidence. And again, they are listening to me document the P.O.C. as I speak. The fact that you have, again, all the facts that I continue to reiterate with regard to the unnatural light movement, which is readily provable, with regard to the identical behavioral patterns, namely, like once I was working on my phone, you have this third party sitting in front of me, looking at, looks like clothing or whatever on a website, but her communication device is flashing. So that's an enhanced light tactic. She's not taking pictures. And again, the directed flashing of light is directed in my direction. So you have that P.O.C. on the part of third parties while I'm engaged in activity on my communication device, while I'm engaged in documentation. In addition, you have the cars that are literally just sitting still in the drive-thru, that is to surround the building. You have them sitting next door in an abandoned parking lot. They get inside, sitting in their cars, walking around on their phones because they are engaged in a comprehensive search and detection and attempt to steal electronic information. This is an expansive and comprehensive system, and they are very relentless and ridiculously so, based on the fact that I have filed the writ petition in the Supreme Court, based on the fact that I have such a substantial amount of documentation, based on the fact that I am in this process of exposing every aspect of the system as it exists. And so the hostility, whether they show it in a muted manner or not, is present. And the desperate attempt to seek out information, including by the court, to stall on my petition, this is all manifest and as evidence of the same system that I'm exposing. So anyway, it's 10:46 a.m. and what I wanted to speak to again is the unnatural movement of light inside of this establishment while I document the P.O.C. And the presence not only, and this speaks to the relevant positioning. This is what I mean by it is not just inside, it is also outside, around the building, in the drive-thru. That is another means of the same search, another means of the same invasion of privacy. In the parking lot, as they drive past on HOLT, as they drive past on San Antonio, as I documented the light tactics in the Stater Brothers parking lot, and again, they are outside over here next door, adjacent to Starbucks, where it is a closed-down business, and it has been so for a prolonged amount of time since I've been coming here in August of 2019. But on various occasions, particularly when they noted that I documented or noticed something, they fill up as though they are doing something there. So anyway, I just want to show that the third parties are present right now next to this closed down business that I have documented the P.O.C. So you're talking about light activity occurring over there where it is a closed down business. So I just want to note that. It's 10:47 a.m. and at this facilitating venue of Starbucks at 706 West HOLT, the P.O.C. is underway, and it is aggressively so underway. And the inextricably linked facts exist as far as being followed here by the aircraft, where they remained over, flying around the vehicle where I was en route from Starbucks yesterday, and from every other place. And so this is what I mean by all the facts that are connected. This is not a mystery, actually. I have broken it down into elements. It is very simple and it is unsophisticated in every way. And this also speaks to the desperate acts that the third parties, as I continue to document, you can even the desperation is shown in the light conduct in and of itself. That shows desperation. So anyway, 10:48 a.m. It's January 8th, 2020, and I am still inside of the facilitating venue of Starbucks. It is 10:58 a.m. and those images that I just took is just capturing how the third parties have me what is quote unquote called surrounded on both left and right, and also in front, directly in front at the register. These third party employees, they remain behind the bar. They're in relevant position as well, and they keep the communication devices on their person. But again, this is speaking also to the ongoing invasion of privacy and the close manner in which they are monitoring me. Immediately, so you're talking about seconds while they're listening to me document, now they're filling in with more third parties who are sitting in different places. After I just captured the images of this cafe being virtually empty, except for the places that are in close proximity to my left, to my right, and directly in front at the register. So upon taking those images, now you have third parties that are sitting. You've got two more on the left. You've got another one that's getting positioned to sit next to the other one that's on my right. This is the ongoing monitoring that is occurring. And again, this is while they listen to me document the P.O.C. And as I speak, they stand around. I'm looking at another third party, standing by a drink under the guise of waiting for his name to be called, looking at his watch, looking at the time. This is P.O.C., and this is the way that it looks, where you have a system that is operating under the factual circumstances within a cafe. And again, this is what it looks like when they are acting in concert with a state that is engaged in stalking. So they are under the necessarily conducting themselves as though they are merely entering a cafe and just happen to be seated around me, the targeted individual, who is happening to also be subject to stalking by the government and by law enforcement, and is also documenting identical behavioral patterns on the part of complete strangers. Again, these are not coincidences. This is identification. This is my systematic identification of the system as it looks inside of a facilitating venues such as Starbucks, which is a template for what is occurring at every single place. Just as third parties engage in standing right in front of me, under the guise of waiting for a drink, where it really doesn't matter whether they're really getting a drink or not. What they are doing is engaging in P.O.C. relevant positioning, listening to every word that I'm documenting as well. In addition, you have the real-time reaction. Third parties fill this place and sit in different positions immediately following my images taken of those third parties that were seated at my right and left and standing at the register, immediately following those images. So you're talking less than 3 minutes ago, less than 2 minutes ago, and you've already got more third parties that immediately filed in. This speaks to how closely I am being watched, how closely I am being monitored, regardless of, irrespective of the fact, in spite of the fact that they conduct themselves as though this is not occurring. And as it is profound. I mean, it was profound upon my starting to document it, but what I am exposing is something where I am literally the subject of attention on a massive scale, and they are literally entering and knowingly engaging in this is monitoring, this is surveillance, and this is stalking, because as I walk to and from the car, you have the people in their vehicles who are awaiting my arrival, who are following behind, who are driving slowly, waiting for me to cross the street in order to engage in crossing path. That's stalking, that's monitoring. They are all aware of my presence. They are all engaging in concerted action. But the government that's remaining in physical proximity to my location, but the government that's flying around and stalking and monitoring me via aircraft. And this is profound in that these third parties inside of this venue at Starbucks, which is also the case at Stater Brothers. It's also the case at every other venue that I've documented the P.O.C. But what is so it's profound is that in the state of California, what I am capturing, what I am exposing in my documentation is the fact that this is literally an establishment that is in the business currently right now. When I am present, this is what they are focused on, while they conduct themselves as though they are not. And that is a malicious design of the system itself. But it is to be, it's a matter of proof of my documentation. It's substantially in existence. The fact that they are systematically engaged in P.O.C. And they are engaged in very close, very close listening and paying attention, trying to contradict and or duplicate, trying to engage in that which, but the facts and the elements that remain that they cannot escape from is the universal stalking of the government that follows me all the way to here and from, the harassment, the law enforcement presence, law enforcement that's engaged in stalking and is systematically appearing here, which is a form of harassment, which is also a form of stalking and P.O.C. with regard to the stalking and harassment and monitoring. And you also have the third parties engaged in identical behavioral patterns. So it is something that is already established. What you have inside of Starbucks is a pathetic attempt to try to alter reality, which is characteristic of the same entity that I'm documenting. Where, again, which I stressed with the light activity, it is patently ridiculous, the things that they are engaging in inside, and they continue to do so while they listen to me critique it. But the reason why they are stuck with it is because, number one, for them to stop is going to suggest, number one, that it's proof that they're listening, which I already know, it's already established, but number two, their attempt to try to make reality what is not reality. But the reason why, this is why I'm smiling, but it's not funny. But this is the thing. With regard to the state's conduct, they are factually surrounded. With regard to the third-party conduct, this is why they are factually surrounded. Because whether they stop engaging in it or whether they continue to engage in it, they are, as far as evidence is concerned, they are damned. There is an absence of facts on their behalf. And as far as brands such as Starbucks, which will be named as a forefront, in the forefront of third parties that are engaged in concerted criminal conduct with the state. It is something that serves to establish the very system that I'm documenting and exposing. Again, one fact, and that's not even talking about the airplanes, not even talking about police stalking, not even talking about that. The fact that you have walls of light, as I have described it, disco light effect, as I have documented it and described it inside of this establishment, which is going to be readily proven. It is readily proven. This isn't something that can't be demonstrated, that can't be exemplified, that can't be tested in the future in a court of law. It's something that is readily provable, and the fact that they continue to engage in it is patently ridiculous. But it is proof of the very thing that I am documenting. And that's why I smile, because factually, as far as being a targeted individual, I do desire to expose this, and that's what I'm doing. But as far as them being factually surrounded, they are factually surrounded because they are damned by that which they have engaged in and have engaged in for a prolonged amount of time. And that is another thing. Even where they try to change up their conduct, which they can't because they are stuck in a behavioral pattern, because this is the ways in which they engage in the conduct. And I have identified it. So all I am doing is showing different iterations of the same criminal conduct over and over and over again. And what I am showing is that while I am inside of this establishment that is a facilitating venue for such criminal conduct, third-party patrons and third-party employees are knowingly and consistently and ceaselessly, while I am present, engaged in the P.O.C. And I don't want to, I would be remiss if I didn't state that is exactly why they are entering. That is the purpose for what they are doing. When I am present, this is headquarters for stalking, for monitoring, and that is exactly what they are doing. And that is what is profound about it. But the fact that the state is engaged in stalking an American citizen by aircraft shows how important it is. So it cannot be underscored anymore. This is headquarters for that criminal conduct, and third parties are actively and deliberately, intentionally engaged in conduct to that end. And what I am showing is that the real-time reaction, the nonverbal communication, the ridiculous light tactics, this is all proof of the same system, and they go to extreme lengths in order to do so. And I do describe Starbucks as one that is a headquarters for this criminal conduct. It is literally headquarters. While the targeted individual is here or en route here, that is what they are focused on. That is exactly what they are doing, irrespective of any guise that they place under it. What you are seeing is P.O.C. that exists, irrespective of the way that they conduct themselves outwardly. Anyway, it's 11:07 a.m. and it's January 8, 2020. And I am still at this is a criminal establishment. I'm documenting crime, and Starbucks, they're taking on a leading role. January 8, 2020. It's 11:25 a.m. and this is just to give added documentation to the P.O.C. inside of Starbucks. So as I picked up my phone to look through it, after it was sitting next to me, I wasn't touching it, I was writing, engaged in documentation. I picked it up, it's 11:25, and the moment I pick it up, you have the same walls of light that appeared at the wall that I took an image of, which is directly in front of me. And again, that is another implausible location of light. It is also notable the timing of it. So while I picked it up immediately prior to that, the walls of light, while the light activity is constant inside of here, it picks up once I get into some sort of activity or movement, especially with regard to my communication devices. And again, with regard to my picking up my phone, which is directly on my side, the moment I picked it up in simultaneity to that, the walls of light start moving about, and you're talking about light moving in all manner. It's not moving in a line, which would be consistent with some sort of implausible suggestion that it's a vehicle it's reflecting off of. In addition to its location on the farthest wall, the north side of the cafe, in addition to the fact that that is the drive-through, the street on San Antonio, it's not plausible that that's traffic. It's certainly not the parking lot. It is certainly not traffic on San Antonio on the opposite side of the building. So again, this is direction of light, and this speaks to how closely I am being monitored, how closely I am being watched and surveilled, and the third parties that are planted around me. Again, irrespective of what they conduct themselves outwardly, it is irrelevant. The facts as I continue to document them, and the universal fact that the state engaged in stalking, the nonverbal communication that occurs in simultaneity with my conduct, the unnatural light, the fact that it is unnatural, the fact that it is that which is not in line with the natural order of things, which would occur based on where the sun is located, based on some reflection of some item underneath the sun. This is proof of the search that is ongoing. This is proof of their knowledge of my every movement. This is proof of their close concentration of me, the fact that I am targeted. That's what this is proof of. And that's what I'm documenting as of 11/27. And again, while P.O.C. is underway, you have third parties that enter the cafe. While the light is engaged in movement, you have them crossing paths, sitting on my opposite side, so they are engaged in crossing paths in order to do anything. To go to get a drink, they cross paths. In order to go get a napkin, they cross paths. They engage in movement of air when they enter the cafe, which they do also while I started documenting this very thing. You have a line now in front of me at the register. This is positioning. In addition to the light, this is a search. So this is P.O.C. So this is what I'm showing moment by moment. They engage in the P.O.C. at a ceaseless rate. It occurs over and over and over again. And the timing with which they are engaged in such criminal conduct speaks to the fact that I am being monitored. This is not a series of coincidences that I continue to capture over and over and over again. In addition to the surrounding facts that the state is engaged in stalking via aircraft and law enforcement. It's Starbucks. This is where I'm capturing this criminal conduct that they are knowingly and intentionally engaged in with the state. It is 11:20, and that is upon their entrance, upon their remaining inside. This is not just happenstance. This is what they engage in knowingly, and the fact that that is the case is shown based on the timing of their conduct. So it is dissection of the facts under the totality of circumstances that proves this case, not under any implausible or mere foolish duplication of circumstances that the state tries to, or some irrelevant attempt to individualize that which is not a matter of individuals. This is a system that's at play, and that's what I'm documenting. That's what I am proving, and it is established by the very elements, by the very behavioral patterns that they continue to engage in. So it's 11:29 a.m. It's January 8th, 2020. Okay, it is 11:35 a.m. One other point that I want to make sure I go out of my way to make a specific form of documentation regarding is my location inside of the cafe. And so the P.O.C. is not contingent on my being seated at the south side. The same P.O.C., I mean, this is already established, but again, I am just covering all bases and showing the consistency with which the system exists and the elements that I have laid out as they exist. So the P.O.C. is underway specifically where I documented sitting at the north side on more than one occasion, but specifically the last time was sitting on the north side of this cafe in the corner nearest the farthest side restroom. That is closest to the employees. That was January 6, 2020, and where I sat there, and the P.O.C. is nonetheless underway, and so it is, and I will expound upon how. But what the the significance of what I am about to outline is the fact that my position seated at the south side of the cafe at the table is by no means any sort of fact that is just incidental to the P.O.C. as I document it. So they are still nonetheless engaged in actually what is more convenient for crossing paths, for positioning, by virtue of the bar being directly in front of the table, by virtue of them sitting habitually on my left and right to engage in positioning, while third parties engage in systematic crossing path and patrolling. But anyway, we can contrast that. We can compare it to sitting on the opposite side of the building, which I did the last time on January 6, 2020, whereby I documented and observed the P.O.C. at the opposite side of the building, sitting in the corner on the opposite side of the restroom, this is all on the opposite corner of, so it's about maybe 15, 20 feet from where I'm sitting. And it is not in the center, it is in a corner of the wall. And again, I documented the abnormal direction of light into the building. You have the flashing of the lights directly above the employees over the drive-through window. You have all elements that are present. You have the light in particular. The lighting behavior of Starbucks in and of itself is that which is imprudent of any normal business establishment that is going to engage in such lighting tactics for liability purposes. But what I'm showing is that they are engaging in it for a criminal purpose. It's intentionally so. They keep the parking lot dark intentionally so. They keep those blinking light bulbs above the employees over the drive-through window, which serves the simultaneous purpose of air movement and enhanced light tactics and the capture and search for in order to steal electronic information. That is purposeful. That is intentional. That's why they do not replace those light bulbs. And they have been documented as such for a prolonged amount of time. So those lights, they blink on and off. I documented that. You have the systematic crossing of path that occurred at the opposite side where I sat. So what third parties did was systematically, as I engage in movement, as I engage in activity, because I am being subject to ongoing monitoring and listening and watching me, you have the abnormal light tactics, which remain static actually by virtue of the blinking lights above the Starbucks employees, but also it was approaching nightfall, so you have as I actually documented that day, the unnatural light direction inside of the building. So later that same day, I sat at the opposite side, and that's where I documented it. And then, so at that point, you had that same light being directed in the opposite side of the building, because I was no longer sitting at the south side, I was sitting at the north side of the building. And so that golden beam of light from the door, where the sun is at the east, going down, and it's from one side of a glass door which is opening outward, and light is moving inside of the building. It is patently ridiculous, but that's what was occurring as I was sitting on the north side of the Starbucks building. In addition to that, the systematic crossing path is accomplished by not only them outside of the building, but inside of the building. Third parties systematically, repeatedly, over and over again, approach the register as though they don't know the code. Whether or not they do, it's irrelevant, but this is just the P.O.C. that they engage in. They enter, what's the code? Or they make a purchase, and then they ask for the code, and then which is crossing path and entering, crossing path again, going to the bathroom, being in relevant positioning inside of the restroom, where they are engaged in the search. It is plausible, it's perfectly feasible in order to do so. In addition, you have the third parties, the third party employees, in their back area, where not only where they sit at the register and serve patrons as they enter, but they have a back area. They engaged in systematically passing by that doorway, peeking through that doorway, standing at that side counter with the communication devices that remained there. But that's how crossing path was also accomplished. And you also have the bookshelf that displayed the coffee and the cups. That was a means of fascination as I sat there, and third parties engage in crossing path and positioning by doing so. This is the means by which the same P.O.C. was underway, and so I only document this to show that this is not a matter of my sitting on the south side at this table. The P.O.C. is underway, and it's perfectly capable of being underway at any location and at all times that I'm at. The nonverbal communication still continued as I documented it. They are still engaged in in the systematic positioning of third parties, where they also engaged in that lighting effect in order to seek out and steal electronic information. It's 11:41 a.m. and again, it is to the degree of ridiculous what I continue to capture. Third parties are surrounding the buildings in the drive-thru. They're engaged in positioning inside, and the third party at the register directly in front of me. This is while they listen to me document. This is while they listen to me verbally narrate the P.O.C., listen to everything that I say, and in ways that they can try to contradict it. But there is no contradiction of behavioral patterns. There is no contradiction or any way to evade that which has been a matter of prolonged studying and observation and documentation, and the fact that the abnormal light conduct in and of itself is proof of the very thing that I'm documenting. The fact that the state is engaged in stalking me again via aircraft and through law enforcement, that again is the inextricable fact that is linked to the third-party conduct that I continue to document. It's 11:42, and it's January 8, 2020, and I just want to give another another iteration of that same search that occurred at the opposite side of the building. It's Wednesday, January 8, 2020. It's 11:54 a.m. and I just captured another image of just illustrating that which I've already established, which I've already documented. Again, that's the implausible light activity inside of here, which is again direct evidence of the search that is occurring at a ceaseless rate inside of this facilitating venue of Starbucks. The walls of light that are rapidly moving about in all manner of direction, specifically directly in front of me, as I documented moments ago. As I picked up my phone, again, that is not a product of the traffic that is moving on on HOLT, as I captured, which is the only plausible cause of that wall of light. And what I am demonstrating is that basically in line with common sense and logic and a basic understanding of nature, is the fact that based on where the sun is, based on any attempt to actually direct that light, the vehicles and what you see in the images, the criminals of Omni-Trans who are also engaged in P.O.C. by virtue of actually driving past at the moment that I'm engaged in communication, using my communication device as I am aiming it outside of the window. It's not a coincidence that they are arriving, engaging, and crossing past, but that's another matter. Anyway, what it shows is how the sun is hitting objects, and why where the sun is located, it's not going to result in reflection of light inside of this building, let alone walls of light, large squares of light that are moving in all manner of direction, counter to any sort of traffic, in addition to the distance that is inside from the traffic into the building. It's just an illustration of that which I have already documented, and consistent with that which I continue to document with regard to the abnormal, unnatural light activity, which is elemental in an ongoing unlawful search and an attempt to steal electronic information. That was just a picture demonstrating that which I've already shown and established in my documentation. It is an element in the ongoing search that is occurring, and third parties are actively engaged in that search. Third parties remain in relevant position inside of this cafe, surrounding this cafe and the drive-thru, driving past this cafe as they are aware of my position inside. Just like the aircrafts are aware of when I'm entering, when I'm going into the restroom, when I'm moving, going toward the register. Nonverbal communication is useful to that. Invasion of privacy is inherent to that. And so anyway, it's 11:56 a.m. It's January 8th, 2020. Okay, I just took some specific documentation of a third-party employee in relevant positioning, in addition to third-party patron that was engaged in patrolling outside of the building, in relevant position to my position at the table at the south side of the building. In addition to that was the coinciding light activity. I also took a picture of the traffic outside, which would have been at the corner of San Antonio and Holt, and that shows that the light that was passing over in front of me near where the third-party employee is sitting on the communication device. This is a search, and that's what it looks like. The light passing the walls of light is not a product, again, of the traffic on San Antonio. The position of the sun is not going to result in light traveling inside of this building off of vehicles that are driving north or south. In addition to the movement of the light, the shape of the light, and the rapid activity of that light, it actually is activity that varies The other thing that I want to mention is the ongoing monitoring. As I engage in documentation, third parties immediately grab their communication devices like this young lady did on my right side on her phone. And this is also based on their listening to me. In no way is the ubiquitous presence of communication devices any argument that they are not engaged in the search. It is actually speaking to the feasibility of that search. It is also speaking to the manner in which they are engaged in a system that is hiding itself within everyday society because of the fact that everybody typically has a cell phone. And my theory is that they don't even have to hold their cell phone out. Each one represents a communication device. Anyway, those images are showing what was actually occurring, and that was a search by virtue. It is evidenced by that unnatural light activity, and that is also with regard to the third parties that engage in relevant positioning on their communication devices. And so that was specifically a third-party employee, third-party patron outside. But again, that is just a sample. The third parties that are inside of this venue actually are equally capable of engaging in that same search. You have light, you have air movement, and all of the elements remain present. What I am doing is I am capturing images of those who are near me who engage in, where I saw the light activity and the third parties that immediately engage in action accordingly. But it is interesting to note, it is relevant to note that this is what it looks like. It is nothing fancy. It's nothing that looks as though suspecting, because it is a matter of public corruption and it necessarily needs to take on that appearance. And so this is why the outward conduct, the outward appearance of things, the veneer itself is absolutely irrelevant. This system is proven by virtue of the behavioral patterns, by virtue of the presence of the elements that remain, and that is what is proving this case. I am inside of the facilitating venue of Starbucks, and that was the employee. Her name is Jasmine. She's the same one that was positioned outside of the restroom when there was a duplicated incident of harassment outside of the restroom in Starbucks. And it was following the harassment incident at Stater Brothers. Again, that's not a coincidence, and she was positioned right outside of the door on a communication device upon my exit when no one was there anymore waiting to get into the restroom after they tried to repeatedly enter when it was clearly locked and occupied. It's 1:51 p.m., January 8th, 2020. The images I just captured at 6:22 p.m. are number one of the airplanes, specific airplane that was audibly making itself present. Everything that they do is deliberate because they engage in inconspicuous flight, remaining in static presence wherever I am. And so when they are flying over in a plane that I can hear, that is deliberate. Anyway, so that was what was occurring. I took an image of an airplane. I was standing at the intersection of Vine and Flora after having walking down. I am leaving Starbucks, where I was documenting the P.O.C. in that third-party facilitating venue. I took images of the airplanes as they surround Stater Brothers in the Starbucks as I exited, Stater Brothers as I entered and exited, and the light enhancement tactics upon walking through the parking lot, the third-party crossing path used in conjunction, and the aircraft that I specifically took a picture of, and the third party that was in the vehicle. And the reason why I took a picture of that third party is because that one in particular, while the state is futilely engaged in trying to contradict that which is a set of behavioral patterns that they cannot contradict, what demonstrates that they were actually engaged in P.O.C. is the fact that they sat there waiting for me to take the picture in order to engage in crossing paths while I'm using my communication device. They had their headlights on while the airplane was flying over. That's P.O.C. While they intended to conduct themselves as though they were just driving by. I intentionally delayed in order to make them wait, and that is exactly what they did. I took a picture of the back of the vehicle, though. That is P.O.C. And again, every third party that I capture is merely a sample of the system that exists everywhere that I go and everywhere that I'm en route to. It's a universal system. This is a California malicious model of state stalking, so that's what I'm capturing, that's what I'm exposing. I'm at 7-Eleven now where the P.O.C. is underway. Every time I come to this third-party facilitating venue, let me note this right here, airplanes are present. In addition, they are always sitting inside of their car, parked inside of the store, which is relevant position inside of this relatively small store. You have third parties engaged in their emergency flashes across the street. That is relevant position as well. You have third parties sitting inside of their vehicles. Actually, all of them are. And you have headlights on this one, which is nearest the entrance doors. You have third parties sitting inside their vehicles all around the corner. Actually, I'm looking around the perimeter, and you have the lighting aspects, people in their cars with the headlights on. So again, this speaks to the perimeter use that I documented with regards to state law enforcement, firefighters, and police. They created a perimeter. It was actually in between Starbucks to the vehicle that I walked to. That is the purpose of their presence at that particular location. They were right in between where they knew I was coming from and where they knew I was going, in addition to the presence of the airplanes. So as of right now, I'm kind of out of breath because I'm walking, sorry. But as of right now, what I'm documenting is the presence of all the elements that are here at 7-Eleven, as they always are. I'm just documenting them present as I am here today, right now, on January 8th. And again, that is enhanced light tactics by use of emergency flashers directly in relative position to my location at the 7-Eleven when I'm engaged in use of my communication device. That's P.O.C. It's not a coincidence, especially when I'm subject to stalking by aircraft, by the government and law enforcement. This is the P.O.C. right here. This speaks to the third parties who are aware of my presence. They are aware of the fact that I am a targeted individual, and they are engaged in concerted action to that end. There are no coincidences when the government is engaged in stalking and harassing you, which is a fact that is irrefutable based on my documentation. And so right now, prior to entering 7-Eleven, I just want to note the presence of all elements upon my entrance, and the airplanes that followed me from Starbucks all the way to Stater Brothers to the 7-Eleven at Vine and G Street. It is 6:27 p.m. It is 7 p.m. and what I want to know, well, 7:01 p.m. and what I want to know, I am inside of the vehicle. This is just specific documentation denoting the latest airplane just flew over right now at 7:07 p.m. flying west over FERN. I'm on FERN and G. They engage in this systematically, ceaselessly, at an ongoing rate, but also pursuant to any movement and activity that I engage in. So if I engage in anything that they deem worthy, they immediately fly over, including the helicopter. And this is in addition to third parties that engage in crossing paths simultaneously. And that is largely by their vehicles, especially at nightfall right now at 7 p.m. That was simultaneous. An airplane flew over and a vehicle drove past, lighting up this vehicle with the headlights, exceptionally bright headlights, aimed into this car as they are driving past. That is the same POC, the same search underway while I'm inside of this car. Again, the other methods engaged in is shooting light horizontally through the window, which is not any product of headlights that are reflecting inside of a window as they're driving past. So anyway, this is clearly demonstrable in a court of law in the future based on the location of this vehicle, based on the trajectory of light in general, and what is typically generally going to happen when you are engaged in driving past a vehicle. My goal is to show that it is consistent within the elements, in addition to all the elements remaining present, the universal one being the presence of the airplanes that continue to fly over, and they are doing so right now. Moments before I started this specific recording, I am doing so actually in order to denote it. It is 7:03 right now, and I am starting this following the POC that I am documenting from beginning to the end. And at the end, I am inside of the vehicle tonight on January 8, 2020. It's 7:03 p.m. And as of 7 o'clock, that was the latest airplane that just flew west over this car. That is within POC for the airplanes. That is pursuant to the stalking and monitoring. I also documented them following me all the way from Starbucks. In addition to that, the POC on the part of the third parties who are engaged in systematic crossing path and use of enhanced light tactics. Invasion of privacy is inherent to that. They engage in this conduct in simultaneity with my action movement, listening to everything that I say. It is the same elements that remain present inside of this vehicle that I document inside of a facilitating venue such as Starbucks. And it is January 8th, 2020. It's 7:04 p.m. And in the background, those are the airplanes, the sound of airplanes. And so this is establishing their static presence. It is not a question as of January 8th, 2020, that the planes are still engaged in. That is the state, the government, who I have initiated civil proceedings against for stalking, that the courts have unlawfully denied me relief for. So this is my documentation denoting to date that they remain present. They remain flying over this vehicle. They remain following me everywhere that I go. They remain engaged in the unlawful search, monitoring for electronic information, and they are doing so in concert with the third parties that I continue to document engaged in such concerted criminal conduct. It is 7:05 p.m., January 8, 2020, and I'm inside of a vehicle at FERN and G, where the P.O.C. is ceaselessly underway. It's 7:08 p.m. I want to specifically note one more thing with regard to the light conduct as I observe it inside of the vehicle. This is just documenting, as I document the light activity inside of the vehicle. It is consistent with that which I observe outside when I'm walking out inside of facilitating venues, as I've already stated. It's 7:09 p.m. right now, and again, what I have actually specifically documented this with regard to the location of the light and where it hits inside of the car and the implausible nature of that. It is a product of the same search. What I want to show, what I want to speak to right now, just in this particular piece of documentation, is the fact of the direction of light, the shape of light. You have, and this is, again, the reason why I want to describe it is because it is directly consistent with what I've already documented. I have direct evidence of inside of Starbucks. And the third-party conduct, again, when you are dealing with a state that's engaged in a matter of public corruption with the people of the state that are acting in concert with them, their outward conduct becomes immaterial. It becomes irrelevant because it's going to be proven based on the patterns as they exist. And light activity is an element in this system that I'm documenting. So you have third parties that conduct themselves outside as though they are merely driving past. Again, they don't know I'm inside the car, right? They're engaged in that which is otherwise innocuous and lawful, just driving down the street. However, the elements demonstrate that they are engaged in invasion of privacy, that they are engaged in active monitoring, that they are doing so in concert with the state that is actively engaged in such proven conduct. And that is demonstrated based on the fact that they are engaging in such conduct in simultaneity with my actions, with my movement, which requires them to be listening very closely. In addition to that, this is just showing that's a third party starting a car as I open the door. That's the airplanes flying over as I'm engaged in documentation. This is real time. They are listening to me document the P.O.C. And this is just proving my point. So anyway, with regard to the third party conduct, this is what you see inside of Starbucks, right? It is the same consistent patterns outside where the target individual is remaining inside of a vehicle. And so I am documenting the P.O.C. Where the target individual is living inside of a car where they would otherwise not be aware of that, but you have all of the elements present. And this is based on their engaging in the conduct and the character of that conduct. So the light in particular, which I'm focused on, is that which is hitting the passenger side. So this is light that is shooting through. It is not light that is, number one, a reflection of headlights that are driving past in a parallel position to the stationary position of this vehicle on the side of the street facing the north end. Facing north on FERN, first of all. So a vehicle driving north or south is not going to be shooting light horizontally through the window of the car. In addition, it's only a portion of the front window that is open. Again, that is improbable. It is highly implausible that light is going to be directed horizontally in that manner. Also, in addition, the light itself, the character of the light, it is rich white light. That is not a matter of reflected light. It's not a matter of reflected headlights. That is light that is being directed into the vehicle. Next, I would also, the activity of the light, that's what I'm focused on. You are looking at light that takes on different shapes, that takes on a character in and of itself. It is active light. It is light that is moving, not moving analogous to a moving vehicle. You're talking about light that's taking on like square shapes. It takes on different characters. And it is moving in a pattern that is not consistent with a vehicle that is driving past, in addition to the fact that it's not going to result. And again, this is all that which is readily provable based on just demonstrating another. You can do this in a court of law. You can just set up the same circumstances and demonstrate how it is improbable, how this is not the case, despite the outward conduct that this is actually occurring. This is a matter of public corruption, and this is a design of the very system. So how you determine, how you are able to show, how I am proving, in other words, that third parties are engaged in criminal conduct with the state is by virtue of their conduct, by virtue of the presence of the elements, by virtue of the characterization of their conduct, the simultaneity with which they are engaging in it, the consistency with which they are engaged in those behavioral patterns, the identical patterns themselves that they are engaged in. They are so identical that I was able to break them down into elements, okay? That is showing what is actually the case, whereas the state would like to just focus on, oh, well, this person doesn't know you, and how do they, that is irrelevant. You are talking about a matter of public corruption, and this is a system that is built on maliciously designed to depict a targeted individual as one suffering from a mental incapacity by virtue of airplanes following them. Okay, that is intentional conduct. That is intentional to design that to depict that targeted individual as crazy. And so I have direct evidence of that. I have direct evidence of the conduct that third parties are engaged in. And so this is why it is dismissed. It is irrelevant to the system as it exists, the elements as they exist, the conduct, the timing with which they are engaged in that. The timing is pursuant to invasion of privacy. It is instrumental to the capture of electronic information. It is based on their active listening and monitoring to the targeted individual. The targeted individual is the one that they are focused on, and that is why their conduct mirrors the targeted individual itself. Now, when you're engaged in that which is otherwise occurring under the guise of everyday life, all you have to do is merely engage in repeating that conduct over and over and over again in order to suggest that it is normal. What are they doing inside of Starbucks? They're creating clamor, which is nonverbal, but they just engage in, you can easily engage in just repeating more, but that does not change the fact that it is P.O.C., and that it does not change the fact that it is consistent with that same element at every other place that the targeted individual is going. In addition to the fact that airplanes, the government itself is engaged in stalking, that is a universal fact that third parties cannot escape, that they cannot separate themselves from. Anyway, with regard to the light activity, again, they can have as many cars as they want drive by and suggest that this is not a system that exists, that this is just a happenstance of reflected light. No, and that is also something that is readily provable. This is not something that is going to remain a mystery. It's going to remain some unaddressed question. It is clearly capable of being readily proven about what is actually going to occur with regard to headlights beaming inside of this vehicle under the circumstances that exist. Okay, you have substantially covered blankets over the windows. It is not going to create the light activity or the light concentration that I am documenting inside of the car. And so, again, it's 7:15, and I just wanted to make that specific point, the consistency of the elements as I am inside of the car, and the presence of the light activity, and the highly unlikable and implausible manner in which they are engaged in the element of directing light and its simultaneous crossing path that they do when they are engaged in driving by. And even so, it is simultaneous. Any crossing path is also accomplished by any third party walking by while the airplanes are engaged in flying over. There's many ways that they engage in the same P.O.C. This is the exact same thing I'm documenting inside of Starbucks. The different ways, the plethora of ways that they engage in the same P.O.C. over and over and over again. Outside, you're only going to have so many ways to do it. You're either going to walk by, ride your bike, sit in your car like a stalker, or drive by, stand outside, engage in obvious conversation, seeking to conduct yourself as though you are unaware of the targeted individual. I mean, I have already lined this all the way out, the ways in which third parties conduct themselves, and this is why it is totally irrelevant. It is part of the system itself. And based on that system that is maliciously designed, it does violence. This is a matter of violence that is being inflicted on the targeted individual, and that is the point. It is 7:17 p.m., and as I speak, again, the state is listening to me document the P.O.C. They are listening to me identify their conduct. They are listening to me identify the elements that are present. And they continue to engage in the same conduct, which is readily proven to be that which is not a product of nature, which is not plausible to occur at all. And they continue to do so. And this is adding context to the conduct itself. But it is also speaking directly to the invasion of privacy. in addition to the fact that they are engaging in the conduct and the timing with which they are engaged in it, which necessarily requires them to be invading privacy. I think I have made this point, and I have shown the consistency. I am just making every scenario, every attempt, as futile as they are by the state, and by the state I mean the third parties that are acting on part of the state. I am showing the consistency of my elements, the way that I have broken down the system and how you are able to identify it, regardless is not a word, regardless of the way in which third parties seek to conduct themselves or present themselves on the outward. It is a veneer. And this is why it is public corruption, because third parties are acting knowingly, deliberately, intentionally in concert with this government that is already proven to be a stalker and a harasser and a monitor. But they are also doing so, their role in doing so is intended, it is deliberately, it is necessarily including that which is, they're strangers and they don't know the target individual, and that is a part of the system itself. And this is why it is a matter of public corruption that is hiding in plain sight, as I have termed it. It is hiding in plain sight. And this is something that is doing severe violence. This is doing violence to the target individual. And it is no small matter. And what I will do, and what I intend to do, what I continue to do, is document that, that which they intend to, what they falsely assumed was going to be a cover, a guise under which that this could hide. And I'm showing the ways in which it is hiding. And I am also showing the ways in which you see actually what is occurring. And that is through the consistency of the behavioral patterns